You know, Lewis, we had that situation earlier this year in Atlanta with Chad's car, and you just hope everything's good. These cars have the ultimate in safety equipment in them. This is the ultimate.
So right now the crew going to the top end of the racetrack.
.901, that's the best time slip. The first round of the Traxxas Nitro Shootout for funny cars. No parachute, though, for Ron Capps. Is this car going into the sit can? Yes, it is, and all the way to the net. And over on its top. So now the concern, how's Ron Capps in that car? Can we get him out quickly? The NHRA Safety Safari is already quick on the scene at the top end. Ron Tobler doesn't even want to look at the replays. Tony, parachutes came out late. You've been in those situations before. What was Ron Capps feeling at that moment when the chutes weren't hitting?
Well, you got to almost think that there was some kind of brake failure. The parachutes can get tangled up, but this was all horsepower. The Napa car just pulls away from John Force. It didn't appear that anything was wrong, but parachutes should have been out at this point. When that car starts bouncing, he's already on the brake.
Capps does his best to kind of slide the car to see if he can get that gravel to grab it, but it did, and it ended up spilling it over on its top.
Yeah, that was odd. Normally when a driver is heavy on the brake, the car will start bouncing, so I'm going to point the finger at brakes. The parachutes did come out.
He's out of car. He's out of car. Ron's out of the car. Ron's out of the car. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
Finish line stripe 6.5, 2, 9, 2:11.46. Bo Butner goes to the number 5 spot. And Aaron gets a little bit better. No parachutes out on Aaron Strong's car. Look at him smoking the front tires. Oh, and that brand new beautiful Camaro is going on the beach. Oh, man. Aaron Strong makes his career best run. Of course, it's only his second time down the track. 6.587, 2:08.91. And then the chutes don't open. And even with the uphill shutdown here, for the longtime Division 6 campaigner who's living his dream of coming out here and trying.
Oh, hold on. Thank goodness it comes to a stop finally. As John Force exploded a car, that put him in the path of Johnny Lindbergh. And from that moment forward and for a long time, simply hold on tight. Good to see some arms flailing underneath the parachute that looks to be shrouded over the top of Johnny Lindbergh. Johnny climbs out. Meanwhile, they're attending to John Force right now. Tony Schumacher, I don't know how many times we've held our breath with you in these moments. Memphis comes to mind.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable. This was a big explosion. You know, I couldn't tell if he had any control after it blew off the ground, because that was a big move. It come across, and when it hit Lindbergh's car, you know, when the parachutes get tangled up, man, they're just wrapped up. You got all these monsters with no bodies on them now, just pulling each other around with absolutely no control. But you know, just want to see some movement from Johnny here.
No reason for any speculation. We're going to step away to let the men and women of the NHRA Safety Safari, our first responders, do their due diligence. When we come back, we will update the conditions of both John Force and Johnny Lindbergh following a very scary funny car incident round 2 in Arizona. Conscious and alert, the NHRA Safety Safari did take a lengthy amount of time making sure we got the 16-time champ out. He's being transported for observation to a local hospital. Here is why that is. John Force right side, big explosion. And from there, Tony Pedregon just got to ride this one out.
Well, John's hanging on. He's collected Johnny Lindbergh. grabbed a hold of his parachutes, and John's getting really beat around. Now, there are a lot of safety measures in that chassis. There's a form-fitted seat, but the damage starts early. Take a look at that raw fuel coming out of the pipe right at the step. A second one went out. Now, what John did in the seat was not anything that any other driver wouldn't have done. Take a look at this raw fuel. On the other side, it was a V8 that was transformed into a V6. Now, that puts a lot of stress internally on the parts. Now, what happened was when the engine blew up, the concussion was so big that it turns the car and repositions it, and that is the reason that it goes into Johnny Lindbergh's lane.
Courtney very concerned, Brittany as well. The top end, they were there as the NHRA Safety Safari was extricating John. Don Schumacher, a lot of concern. After all, he is Funny Car's winningest guy.
Wow, Mike Bowman's going to try to punch his way back in again. Jackson goes 5.73.3 at 250, and Mike Bowman goes 5.89 and doesn't qualify because the bump is 5.82. And Mike Bowman has no parachute, and Mike Bowman's heading in the sand, and Mike Bowman is into the net at a very high rate of speed. Bowman, you see Stevie move first, go down the racetrack. Both guys made nice, clean runs. Jackson went to number 2 on that 5.73, and everything seemed according to plan. And here's where things deviated from the plan. As Mike Bowman at this point is throwing the parachutes out, you can see them tangling behind the race car, not blossoming, and here's where his problems begin in earnest. At this point, he knows that the parachutes have not hit, and he knows that he is eating up real estate at a very rapid rate. You can see him centering the car up, trying to come into the center of the sand trap. He's obviously working the brakes, and he scrubbed off. Look at the brakes glowing like the surface of the sun as the car now skids across the top of the sand trap, and here is impact. Note that it scoops the car up, stands it up on end, and leaves it there. So the car came to rest. I don't know if they gave him a escape rope or a step ladder to get out of that thing, but he was sitting there, could basically give us the the weather report because he's sitting straight.
On your screen right now, he's going to go through a big-time explosion. He's a rookie making his first ever national event debut. That's a serious fire. But the bigger concern is in the other lane. Short racetrack here. Gary Dencham's got no parachutes. Look and listen to what he just endured. Very scary incident. We all held our collective breaths until Gary Dencham, with the help of NHRA Safety Safari, was able to climb out of that tangled mess. Now, at the end of each and every racetrack, Tony, the safety precautions are in place. A long gravel slow-down lane, a couple of catch fences, some water barrels behind that. They did their job. Gary's car did its job. His safety equipment did everything to get him out of this.
Everything held up, but this Pomona racetrack is notorious for chewing cars up and spitting them out. The reason for that is it's a very short shutdown area. The primary braking system of these cars are parachutes. There were no parachutes on that run. There almost seemed to be some brake failure, but you could almost hear the car skipping. Gary was violently trying to pull the brake. On a 307-mile-an-hour run, the driver almost has to time those parachutes so they come right out at the finish line. And if nothing happens, at this point, Gary knows he's just going to tense up. He knows what's in front of him.
Wise Auto Club Raceway a tad short. Remember, this is a track that opened in 1950. Who knew that 40, 45 years later, and routinely beyond that up to 2016, cars would eclipse 300 miles an hour. But when 69-year-old independent funny car racer Gary Dencham climbed out, John Kernan was there with him. A lot on his mind.
Well, thankfully, Gary Dencham has gotten out of his car with assistance from the Safety Safari. And Gary, what a scary ride. Take us through that.
Well, you know, I don't know how come the parachutes didn't open. I mean, the car felt like it ran pretty good. I don't even know what it ran, but it seemed like it was pretty good. And then the parachutes didn't open and ended up down here. And I guess that I've had a great career. It's been wonderful, and it's good to have all these guys in Safety Safari. It takes all the fear out of running these cars because they're going to do a great job no matter what. And this might be the end of it for us, but you know, unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But it had to happen. It's great to be here at Pomona and have it happen.
You ran a 4:05, just to let you know. The chutes didn't come out, and when you're carrying that kind of speed, I guess the brakes don't help either.
It's not enough, just not enough. I mean, it's, you know, nobody's fault. It's just what happens, you know. It's shame it had to happen when you only got one car and no way to get another one. But that's the way it goes.